If there was just one piece of advice that I could give to both aspiring and current UX researcher in order to grow their career in UX research, it would be to communicate their work in terms of impact. In this video, we're going to talk about different types of impact and how you might use them to talk about your work in order to increase your chances of being hired or promoted within your current position. The first thing that I would like to share and would like you to remember is that no one cares about your work. What people care is the outcome of your work, the impact that your work had. And here I'm going to present my understanding of impact, and I'm going to speak about 4 different types. And in the end, I'm going to share an example of a piece of UX research work and how to build a chain of impact around it in order to communicate your work impact first. So in my view, there are 4 different types of impact to be aware of, and these are product impact, user impact, ops impact, and business impact. And we're going to go through each one of them, and I'm going to explain what I mean by each one and how you might measure it. So the first type of impact I would like to mention is product impact, and that's the most straightforward type of impact to link to UX research work. For instance, if you have done a UX research project, you can usually link it to a new feature that has been built or an existing feature that has been improved or a particular product decision that has been made as a result of your user research work. And even though it might be very obvious to you, it is very important to point these things out explicitly when you're talking about your work. What did it impact and what product decisions have been made? What has been built as a result of your work? The next level of impact is user impact or customer impact, which is a slightly more abstracted version. It's a kind of one abstraction level up from product impact, while user or customer impact is basically derived from the product changes that have been made as a result of your work. You can measure user or customer impact in various ways. For instance, you can look at the usage data of this feature that has been built, and you can report the uptake of the feature and say something like 20% of all of our customers are now using this feature regularly. You can also measure improved usability, for instance, by looking at ease of use or customer effort score. So you could measure the customer effort score before and after on a particular feature experience, and if the score has improved after you've made the changes as a result of your research work, you can then report this type of impact. You can also measure the effect on customer satisfaction by either measuring a customer satisfaction score, again pre and post, on a particular feature or part of the product that you have been working on. Or you could also look at existing feedback that is coming in, either an increase in positive feedback and compliments about the feature, or a decrease in negative feedback and complaints. Another way to measure user impact could be to measure customer loyalty, which could be done with a product market fit survey or an NPS, so Net Promoter Score survey. Both of these metrics are not ideal metrics, but if the change that has been made in the product is pretty big, then these metrics could potentially pick it up. And another way is also to look at the qualitative feedback within these surveys that could also indicate improvement. Third type of impact we need to talk about is impact on operations, so ops impact. And this kind of impact basically is seen in how efficient the work processes are. So the metrics we would care about here is time that certain processes take, so trying to reduce the time that is spent on processes, or trying to reduce manual labor and complexity. You might ask why I would need to care about ops impact as a UX researcher. And you're right, a lot of times you will not be talking about ops, but if you're coming from an ops heavy role, for instance, if you're used to be a UX research team of 1, and part of your tasks include improving research operations, you might need to report about this type of work as well. And in order to communicate it in an impactful way, here you might refer to decreased time spent on tasks or decreased costs as a result of spending less time and less human hours going into a particular process. And the last type of impact that is the most important but also the most abstract one and the hardest to link to UX research work is business impact. And I've divided it up into growth and financial impact. So growth impact is everything that has to do with actual users. So the number of people on the platform, these are metrics like registration, conversion rates, activation rate, weekly and monthly active users, depending on the type of product you have. And what we're trying to show in terms of impact on growth is either an increased number of users or a decreased churn. All of these metrics are usually being measured on an ongoing basis in a company, so you can usually just look at existing dashboards. However, as you can imagine, very difficult to link them to particular features that have been built and therefore to your research work, but we'll go into a particular example in the end to give you a bit of a feel for that. And lastly, we want to make sure that we link our research work to financial metrics. Now, these are the easiest to measure, but they're actually the hardest to link back to research. So main financial metrics are, of course, around revenue. So we want to show that as a result of our research work, we have been able to help the company either increase their revenue or reduce potential revenue loss. So just to recap quickly, the 4 types of impact we have talked about are product impact, user or customer impact, ops impact, and business impact. And business impact, of course, is the queen of all impacts, where we eventually want to get to as we link our initial work through those different types of impact. Now, here's an example of how you might build a chain of impact around your user research project that will help you communicate it in a much more impressive way with a focus on impact specifically. So let's say you did a piece of research, and as a result of that research, you have recommended that a particular feature should be, let's say, built or significantly improved. You've communicated your findings throughout your company, and as a result of that, this feature has actually been prioritized and built. And you can even see qualitative feedback as part of this survey, referring back to this particular feature where people are really happy about it and are thanking the company for having built it. So here's your user or customer impact as measured by the customer satisfaction score and qualitative feedback that goes along with it. And then let's say you have circled back with the sales and customer success team and you found out that in the recent time, they've been able to onboard 2 high-value customers successfully because these high-value customers were specifically interested in this new feature that has just been built. So this, of course, is your business impact because 2 customers have been onboarded successfully as a result of this feature existing, which has resulted from your research work. And lastly, you might also look at the financial impact. So you might look at the specific revenue that has resulted from those 2 high-value customers joining. So how much money have they spent, let's say, in their first month on the platform, or in their first 3 months, or however months have passed since the project has taken place. And then you might even be able to link your initial project to the actual revenue increase. So you might say something like, as a result of this particular research work, this feature has been built, which in turn has increased our customer satisfaction score and our qualitative feedback, which has also led to us onboarding 2 high-value customers within so-and-so time frame of the feature having been built. And those 2 customers in turn have alone been responsible for this amount of revenue in this time frame. And here you go. Here's your full chain going from research work through product impact, through customer impact to business impact, all the way to really the core of business impact, which is revenue impact. And I hope you can see how building this chain and communicating the impact of your work in this way is much more impressive and really shows the value of your work more than if you were just describing the actual research project, the methods that you use, and the insights that you gained. So I hope this video was helpful for you and you'll think about impact and this framework the next time you are redesigning your CV, or maybe you're building a case for yourself for your promotion. Do think, how can I take this work that I've done and build this impact chain around it? And an added benefit is that if you're struggling to pick which particular pieces of work you should present in your portfolio or talk about in your performance review, you can try to build this impact chain around every single piece of work and see how far you get. And those pieces of work where you can get the furthest all the way to revenue impact, these will be the key projects that I would advise you to present, be it in your portfolio or in your performance review. Now, of course, this is not the only framework that exists out there. So if you are using a different framework or you know of a different framework that you think works really well, do let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. And I hope to see you next week. Make sure to check out my newest video right here.